Three bombshells just dropped in the Yankees universe on July 17, 2026, that are hitting the baseball world simultaneously like an earthquake. Cody Bellinger doing something nobody predicted. A Miller trade that came out of absolutely nowhere. And a $3 billion number attached to the Yankees that is making every single front office in baseball drop what they are doing and pay attention. Any one of these stories would dominate sports coverage for days. All three happening at once? This is the kind of day that gets talked about for years in New York sports history. Buckle up because we are breaking all three right now. Subscribe right now and hit the bell because this Yankees story is moving at a speed that requires daily coverage, and I am on it every single moment. Let's get into all three of these bombshells right now. Let me tell you something before we dive in. The Yankees entered July 17, 2026, as a team fighting an identity crisis. Aaron Judge is likely done for the regular season. Brian Cashman admitted that publicly just hours ago. The trade deadline is approaching. The AL East race is tighter than anyone expected. And the organization is navigating all of that uncertainty while trying to maintain belief in a clubhouse that has been carrying enormous weight all season long. Into that environment, these three bombshells landed. And they did not land separately or politely. They came crashing in within hours of each other, creating a news cycle so dense and so significant that even hardened New York sports reporters were struggling to keep up. Bombshell number 1, Cody Bellinger MVP case. Let me start here because this one is the most personally compelling, and in many ways, the most unexpected story of the Yankees' 2026 season. Cody Bellinger arrived in New York carrying the complicated legacy of a former NL MVP who had experienced one of the most dramatic career declines in recent baseball history. After his 2019 MVP season with the Dodgers, Bellinger spent years fighting mechanical issues, confidence problems, and the weight of expectations that his peak performance had created. By the time he landed in New York, many observers viewed him as a reclamation project, a talented player trying to find his way back to something approaching his former self. Nobody expected what 2026 has actually produced. As of July 17, 2026, Cody Bellinger is making one of the most compelling MVP arguments in the American League. His numbers are genuinely extraordinary. A batting average pushing .320, 28 home runs at the halfway point of the season, 81 RBI, a slugging percentage above .580, and defensive contributions in center field that have been described by multiple analysts as among the best in the league at his position. Those are not good numbers. Those are historic numbers for a player who many people had written off as a former star incapable of recapturing his best. But here is what makes Bellinger's MVP case so interesting and so explosive on July 17 specifically. A comprehensive statistical analysis published by Baseball Reference this morning put Bellinger at the top of the AL WAR leaderboard, wins above replacement, the most comprehensive single measure of player value. He is ahead of everyone else in the American League by a margin significant enough that multiple credentialed baseball analysts are now openly stating that if the season ended today, Bellinger would be the American League MVP. Think about what that means in context. Aaron Judge, the two-time defending MVP, the best player in baseball when healthy, is sitting in the training room. And the player who has stepped up most dramatically in his absence is not just filling the gap competently. He is producing at a historic level that is generating legitimate MVP conversation. That is an extraordinary plot twist in a season that has already had plenty of them. The reaction from the Yankees clubhouse to Bellinger's numbers and the MVP conversation has been fascinating. Teammates have been effusive in their praise in ways that feel genuinely authentic rather than scripted. Garrett Cole, who benefits directly from Bellinger's run production and lineup protection, told reporters, "Cody is playing the best baseball I have ever seen up close. I watched some elite players in Houston and Los Angeles. What he is doing right now is at that level. That endorsement from Cole means something because Cole is not a player who hands out compliments casually. Manager Aaron Boone, who has been navigating an incredibly difficult season with genuine steadiness, was asked directly whether Bellinger deserves MVP consideration and gave an answer that went further than typical managerial diplomacy. Boone said, "Cody Bellinger is the most complete baseball player I have managed in 15 years. What he is doing at the plate and in the field simultaneously for this many games at this level of consistency, yes, I think he deserves to be in that conversation, absolutely." Coming from a manager with Boone's experience, that statement is not throwaway praise. That is a genuine assessment from someone who watches elite baseball every day. The opposing manager perspective adds another layer. Several AL managers speaking anonymously to ESPN this week described Bellinger as the most difficult offensive player they have faced in 2026, more difficult than Judge was before the injury, which is an extraordinary statement when you consider Judge's 2 consecutive MVP seasons. The reasoning they gave was interesting. Bellinger's approach at the plate has become more disciplined and strategic than his peak Dodgers years, meaning he is not just a talent-driven performer, but a thought-driven one who adapts within games and within series in ways that are increasingly difficult to counter. Okay, now we move to the trade bombshell that came out of nowhere, and has every analyst in baseball recalibrating their view of what the Yankees are doing this deadline. The Miller trade. And when I say it came out of nowhere, I mean that even the most connected reporters in baseball did not see this coming until it was essentially done. The Yankees have acquired Owen Miller from the San Diego Padres in a trade that was finalized on the morning of July 17, 2026. The return package going to San Diego includes 2 mid-level prospects and international slot money. Miller comes to New York with a specific profile that tells you exactly what the Yankees were looking for and why they moved at this particular moment. Owen Miller is a versatile infielder who can play second base, third base, and shortstop at an above-average defensive level. He bats from the right side with solid contact rates and above-average on-base skills. He does not profile as a star. Nobody is going to confuse Owen Miller with Aaron Judge. But what he provides is exactly what the Yankees' current roster construction needs. Right-handed balance in a lineup that was becoming dangerously left-handed heavy, defensive flexibility that allows Boone to construct matchup-based lineups more creatively, and a quality contact bat that makes the lineup harder to neutralize against left-handed pitching. The timing of this move, coming on the same day Cashman publicly acknowledged Judge is likely done for the year, reveals important organizational thinking. Instead of making a desperate star acquisition to try to replace Judge's production with one player, the Yankees are taking a more surgical approach. They are identifying specific lineup construction weaknesses and addressing them precisely with players who fit those specific needs. The Miller trade is not a headline move. It is a smart baseball move, which is exactly what the Yankees need right now rather than a flashy acquisition that creates the appearance of action without solving real problems. The Padres' motivation for making this trade is also worth understanding because it reveals something about how the rest of baseball views the Yankees' situation. San Diego is in their own complicated position, fighting for a playoff spot, dealing with roster questions, trying to figure out their competitive window. Moving Miller for prospects represents a belief that he does not fit their long-term plans and that the prospects they received represent better organizational value than a versatile infielder in his prime. But here is the detail that has analysts most interested. The Yankees were apparently not the only team pursuing Miller. According to sources with knowledge of the trade discussions, the Boston Red Sox were also in serious negotiations with San Diego for Miller before the Yankees stepped in with a slightly better package and closed the deal quickly. Beating a division rival to a specific trade target is not just about the player. It is about organizational awareness and execution speed. The Yankees move faster and smarter than Boston in this instance, which matters both practically and psychologically in a tight division race. The player reaction to Miller's arrival was reportedly warm and immediate. Bellinger, who will benefit directly from more right-handed presence in the lineup around him, apparently sought Miller out within minutes of his arrival at the facility and spent time talking with him about the lineup structure and what kind of pitches he is seeing from the guys directly ahead of him. That veteran-to-veteran connection happening immediately speaks to the clubhouse culture Boone has maintained through what has been an extraordinarily challenging season. Save the most explosive for last, right? Because this is the one that is not just the baseball world, but the entire sports business world stopping and staring. On July 17, 2026, Forbes released their annual valuation of all 30 MLB franchises. And the number attached to the New York Yankees is so large, so unprecedented in baseball history, and so reflective of the team's position in the broader sports and entertainment landscape that it genuinely shocked people who follow this space professionally. The New York Yankees have been valued at $3 billion. $3 billion. With a B. That is not the highest sports franchise valuation ever. The NFL's most valuable teams exceed that, but it is the highest valuation in baseball history by a margin so significant that it represents a genuinely new category of value for a baseball franchise. The previous record for baseball franchise value was well below $3 billion. The Yankees did not just set a new record, they shattered it. What drives a valuation that large? Forbes' methodology accounts for multiple revenue streams and value drivers that compound in the Yankees' case in ways that do not apply to most franchises. The Yankees' regional sports network generates revenue at levels that most teams cannot approach. Their global brand recognition creates licensing and merchandise revenue that has no geographic ceiling. Yankee Stadium, as an events venue, generates income year-round, not just during baseball season. The team's history and cultural cachet create a premium on everything associated with the brand: tickets, experiences, partnerships, media appearances. That multiplies the baseline revenue advantages. But the most significant driver of the Yankees' $3 billion valuation, according to the Forbes analysis, is something more forward-looking: the projected value of the digital and streaming rights associated with their content library and future broadcast arrangements. Baseball's next major broadcast rights cycle is approaching, and the Yankees' local rights combined with their content assets and global fan base are valued at levels that reflect the streaming era's transformation of sports media economics. What used to be simply television revenue has become a multi-platform content asset, and the Yankees' brand converts to that new reality better than almost any sports entity on the planet. The timing of this valuation landing on the same day as Cashman's Judge revelation is almost poetically challenging for the Yankees' public relations environment. You have the GM admitting your best player is probably done for the year, while simultaneously a major financial publication is declaring your franchise worth more than any baseball team in history. The contrast between competitive disappointment and financial triumph is jarring and creates a complicated narrative that ownership has to navigate carefully. Yankees ownership's public response to the $3 billion valuation was brief and characteristically measured. A spokesperson released a statement saying, "The Yankees' value reflects decades of commitment to our fans, our city, and the game of baseball. We are proud of what this organization represents and remain focused on competing for championships as our primary objective." That statement does the necessary work of acknowledging the financial milestone, while immediately recentering the narrative on competitive success. The broader implications of a $3 billion baseball franchise valuation extend beyond just the Yankees. It sets a new reference point for every owner in baseball when thinking about their own asset value. It creates pressure on other large market teams, the Dodgers, Red Sox, Cubs, Mets, to think more expansively about how they are maximizing their own franchise value. And it raises interesting questions about the economic structure of baseball and how a sport with such significant revenue disparities between its most and least valuable franchises maintains competitive integrity. For Yankees fans specifically, the $3 billion valuation is a complicated emotional reality. On one hand, the financial strength it represents is reassuring. A franchise valued at $3 billion is not going to compromise on payroll, is not going to make decisions based on financial constraints rather than competitive logic, and is not going to be in any danger of losing its position at the top of baseball's economic hierarchy. The resources will always be there to compete. On the other hand, the gap between financial dominance and competitive success this season, Judge injured, the playoff position uncertain, the championship window feeling slightly narrowed, is a reminder that money alone does not determine outcomes on the field. You still need the players healthy, the execution consistent, and the breaks going your way. $3 billion does not buy any of those things directly. What it does buy is the ability to respond quickly and decisively when things go wrong. The Miller trade, made possible by a franchise with resources to absorb the cost and the infrastructure to evaluate the opportunity, that is what financial strength actually provides. Not guarantees, but options. And right now, the Yankees are exercising those options with intelligence that reflects well on the organization even in the middle of a difficult year. 3 bombshells on July 17, 2026. Bellinger's MVP case that nobody predicted, the Miller trade that nobody saw coming, and the $3 billion valuation that shocked the entire sports business world. The Yankees season is complicated right now. Judge is likely done. The playoff position is uncertain. The challenges are real. But today also showed why the Yankees remain one of the most compelling organizations in professional sports. Because even on their hardest days, something significant is always happening. And on July 17, 2026, 3 somethings happened simultaneously. Warning: entertainment disclaimer. This content is based on publicly available information and reported sources as of July 17, 2026. All analysis represents opinion and commentary for entertainment purposes only. No affiliation with MLB, the New York Yankees, or any individuals mentioned. For official information, visit Yankees.com.